Rama Rama Hari Hari. So, giving class from a 2005 Prius. In the 8th chapter of the Gita, Prabhupada discusses the length of Lord Brahma's lifetime. What is it? Is it 3? Anyway, it's really long. 640 billion years, I think it is. Someone could correct me on that, but it's really long. And
it's older than the car.
It's older than the car, yes. And it's also, we can understand that Lord Brahma's intelligence is as great as his life is long. That makes sense? So he lives for this incredible amount of time. 311 trillion, 640 billion, if I recall, years. So that's, we can't even conceive about that. We think, between now and Christmas is a long time, right? Or if this class is really boring, it seems like it goes on forever. But 311 trillion years, you can't even fathom that. And Prabhupada says in that same purport that 311 trillion years is like a lightning flash in eternity. So if that's his length of his duration of life, and if his intelligence is as broad and great as his duration of life is long, he's really smart. He's really smart. And yet, he couldn't understand Krishna. And he couldn't, he was bewildered by Krishna. So then the next sentence should be, what to speak of us? What to speak of us? And in that first verse that you read, talks about just how vast and how great Krishna is, because Lord Brahma is great. I mean, I was just reading this morning, actually. He is the person who can go to the bank of the ocean of milk and communicate with Shirodakshai Vishnu. Not everyone can do that. And then he gets the message, and then he passes it on to the demigods. Okay, all of you guys and gals, take birth in the Yadu dynasty, because Krishna is on his way. So he's Lord Brahma. He's the beginning of our sampradaya. He's the author of the Brahma Samhita. He's just incredible. He's the same person who, in the 5th canto, when Narada Muni and Swayambhuva Manu, they're having like a tug of war, and who's in the middle? Priyavrata. He's kind of like being told, no, remain a brahmachari. No, get married and take over the kingdom. Remain a brahmachari. And Narada Muni said, remain a brahmachari. Swayambhuva Manu, no, you have to take over the kingdom. And so who do they call to be the referee? Who decides? Well, Lord Brahma comes on his swan carrier, and he decides, and everyone's happy. Even Narada Muni loses, air quotes, loses the argument. He's satisfied because he has such reverence for Lord Brahma. And even Narada Muni, actually, he thought Lord Brahma was supreme. That's how great. And so Narada Muni is such a great soul, right? So intelligent. And he at one time thought Lord Brahma was the supreme. And but then he saw Lord Brahma meditating, and he said, "Well, if you're the supreme, who are you meditating on?" And then, of course, it was clarified by Lord Brahma. So, the where this is all leading to is our situation, and our situation is simultaneously most fortunate and most unfortunate. Unfortunate in the sense that we're born in Kali Yuga, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagyu Upadrita, where our lives are short-lived, like the opposite of Lord Brahma, right? I think we can all, probably most of us can vouch for the fact that our minds are always disturbed. And at the same time, we're so fortunate that we've come in touch with the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, with Srila Prabhupada, with all the great devotees on this call, with the Bhakti Center and Radha Murli, Dar, and we you just can go down the list with Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Lokanath Goswami, the Baladev video. We've just come in touch with so much by Prabhupada's kindness. So that's the great fortune. So having attained that great fortune, we have to be careful not to accept the teachings that we hear with our intelligence, but ultimately as they are, and not become not speculate. Prabhupada says that a devotee is as thoughtful as a non-devotee is speculative. Right? So our thoughtfulness as we read something in the Shastra, and they say, well, that's kind of far out, a little hard to understand that one. And so the thoughtfulness is to try to understand how it is true instead of whether it's true. And of course, we can talk to what I usually do when I get stumped. When I used to give a nectar devotion class in Vrindavan, and I would literally have on my phone speed dial Bhanu Swami. So right in the middle of questions and answers, if someone asked me a question that I didn't know, I would just put it on speaker, call Bhanu Swami. He almost always picks up his phone. And I'd say, Maharaj, I was asked this question. I don't know the answer. And, lo and behold, by his kindness, we got the right answer. So so Lord Brahma, generally, of course, he goes to authorities and he hears the right answer. But here, we're hearing just how, by Krishna's arrangement, of course, even he could become bewildered. So if he can become bewildered, oh my God, it's so easy. It's so easy for us to become bewildered. I was just listening this morning. Someone asked Sachinandan Maharaj a question about if you because Maharaj was saying Krishna consciousness is our natural state, right? Nitya siddha Krishna preme sadhu kabanoy shravanadi sudachite koreye udoy. That Krishna consciousness is there in the heart, and it just has to be udoy, awoken by shravanadi jal, by hearing, chant. The examples of the creeper, the watering of the creeper by hearing and chanting. But then the devotee said, but it seems so natural to forget Krishna, to be in Maya. And Maharaj was laughing and he said, yeah, this is our situation, that Krishna uli se jeev anadir bahir mukh. We've literally, I can't really do it in a car, but we've literally turned our back on Krishna. And if I turn my back on you all in class, it's not a very nice thing. You might not even be able to hear me so well. We've literally turned our back. Krishna Buli Sejiv Anadi, from time immemorial. We've turned away from Krishna. So in that sense, another place in the Gita, Prabhupada says that until we become advanced, we are by nature non-devotees. It's like, what? That's a little tricky. So Maya is relentless in I was going to say testing us, but I think maybe a more devotional way to look at it. The testing is fine, but nudging us or maybe pushing us, or maybe not nudge. Sometimes it's a nudge. Sometimes it's like a slap in the face, to take shelter of Krishna, sincerely. And we see that in Lord Brahma's life, that after this past, to the end of this pastime, somebody just put something in the.
I'm posting notes, Prabhu.
What's that?
I'm posting notes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Because I'm on a phone, I can't. Yeah. Lord Brahma became so sincere in his regret and his repentance. Just last week, I was at Surabi Kund, the place where he, came with this Surabi cow and begged forgiveness for his offenses. And he was so sincere in that. And so Maya, in one sense, is pushing us to become more sincere when we just realize, I can't do this on my own. Even Lord Brahma couldn't do it. What to speak of me? I can't. I am so insignificant. I am so weak. I am so conditioned by the lower modes of material nature. The only thing, I do my best, and I just have to, sincerely pray like a child calling out for his mother. One time, Prabhupada was asked about he would say, is this philosopher Krishna conscious? Is that philosopher? Is Hegel Krishna conscious? Is Nietzsche Krishna conscious? This person, that person. And Prabhupada said their sincerity is their Krishna consciousness. Their sincerity is their Krishna consciousness. So maybe we're skipping a little bit ahead in this pastime, but Lord Brahma becomes very, very sincere. Okay, maybe other people think they understand you. I can't, I can't understand you at all. I just offer my obeisances to you. So, because our nature is to be forgetful, of course, here we're preaching to the choir. There's so many of you who listen to classes every day, this class every day, but we have to keep being reminded, so that now for the rest of the day, we can remember some of the things that were mentioned in the morning class, because that's our goal, to remember Krishna and never forget him. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya najatuchit. Sarva vidhi nishedasyor etayor eva kinkara. That the goal of sadhana bhakti is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. And all the do's and don'ts, putting on tilak and paying obeisances and avoiding, onions and garlic or whatever, all the big and small do's and don'ts are kinkaras. They're servants of that principle. So it is always important also to keep the main thing, and keep that in mind, that our focus is to remember Krishna and never forget him. I just started reading, like I mentioned earlier, the Krishna book just today, because I was actually inspired by my wife. Her only Kartik Brat was to read the entire Krishna book for Kartik, and she did it. And she said it was so uplifting. It was really had a huge impact on her life. She said just every day, I guess, it's like 35 pages a day she had to read to cover the whole Krishna book in a month, or 28 days. So I was kind of inspired. So I just read the first chapter today. But being reminded of Krishna and reminded that we should be remembering him, it's so important, because it's so easy to fall into the trap. And that's one of the great lessons of this pastime, that Lord Brahma is so incredible, and yet by Krishna's arrangement, he becomes bewildered and totally underestimates Krishna. And we're surrounded by a world that underestimates Krishna. And so therefore we need to take that time to hear about Krishna, so that, and associating with Prabhupada, he never underestimated Krishna. And by his association, then we can not fall into the kind of trap that Lord Brahma fell into. So I'm sure we could have some really good conversation on this. That was my just a few points on this verse and purport. So what are your thoughts?
Vraj Vihari Prabhu, great class. So when Lord Brahma gets bewildered, that's Krishna's arrangement. But what about us? When we mess up, when we get bewildered by YouTube or by daily news or some things of those sorts, is that Krishna arrangement or is that our stupidity?
It's all Leela. It's all Leela. It's all Leela. Yeah. Well, we have to keep on saying that with Lord Brahma, because first of all, he's the head of our sampradaya, and he, he's all over the Bhagavatam. We're not I don't think there's any mention of Ananda Bihari Prabhu in the Bhagavatam, so we're not him. So it, out of proper etiquette, I keep on saying that because that's really important in our Vaishnava etiquette too. It sometimes can get us really mental. Do you ever have that experience? Is this Krishna's arrangement, or is this my, like one time, I'm told, I didn't read this, but a devotee put salt instead of sugar in the sweet rice, and he said, well, I guess that was Krishna's arrangement. And Srila Prabhupada is quoted as saying, it's your foolishness. So at the same time, we are one of the exciting, or exciting is, I heard Prabhupada didn't like the word exciting because he thought it was too much like, sexually agitated or something. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Although we use it in a different way in English today. But one of the really inspiring parts about being a devotee is seeing Krishna's hand in our life on a day-to-day, even hopefully, hour by hour, minute by minute basis, right? That we see things in that way, or we see things through the, Shastra chakshus, through the eyes of Shastra. And that really makes life worth living, to go through the day in that kind of elevated consciousness. And even if we say, well, it's our karma, we say, well, Krishna is giving us our karma, and how can I, kind of like in Aikido, use that energy from that karma in service to Krishna, or in a way that brings me closer to Krishna. So we are tasked. We have the task of seeing Krishna on a in our life, and at the same time we may not have always the best desires, and then we may do an action, perform an activity that is influenced by the material energy rather than by Krishna's inspiration. And then we can't just say, well, it's Krishna's arrangements, Krishna's mercy. We can say that just see how strong Krishna's material energy is. I got bewildered again. Dang, right? And in that sense, air quotes, blame Krishna that that his Maya is so powerful, and then we chose to take shelter of Maya rather than Krishna, and that was a big point in Prabhupada's teachings. Is a big point. Is our individual responsibilities, right, and our free will, and our the choices that we have in life. And so making the right, sometimes it's not clear what the right choice is, and that's what Vaishnava Sangha is for. That's what what's that song? That's what friends are for. A song that was Diane Warwick and Elton John sang many years ago. So that's what friends are for, to help us when we're trying to decide to turn left or turn right, right? Or as Yogi Berra said, if you come to a fork in the road, pick it up. But
that's what Vraj Vihari is for. Vraj Vihari Prabhu is for.
Yeah.
So dear devotees, we have a very qualified speaker today. So take advantage, jump in, ask your questions, unmute yourself.
There may be something. I see the chat kind of flashing at the bottom on my phone, but I can't see what's being said.
Yeah, we're taking.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for class. There's so much I loved about this class. a large part being that it is given from a car. I kind of love that, because I'm just thinking, the point is to think about Krishna and never forget him, even when you're in your car. So there is that. I love those everyday reminders of, like, even in the car driving. But what I was really just sort of reflecting on, and as we turn the page into this chapter, remembering it's Prabhupada's last words to us. And I'm thinking about his stamina. Like, there he is lying, and then he has the stamina to get this done. And that it is, we were just talking about Krishna's arrangement, that it's Krishna's arrangement that these would be his last words. And this seems to be, so it's not about the intellect, it's about the devotional service. Here it is, Lord Brahma, smartest guy ever. And it's showing that it's about devotional service. So I'm just marveling at Krishna's arrangement at that, and that he gave Prabhupada the stamina to, like, give us these last things from his lips to remind us of it. So I just really just was really reminded of that. So thank you so much.
You said so many important things, but you said one thing that really struck me from what you said is that Krishna is understood through love and not through intelligence. Now, we should apply our intelligence. That's true. But he's way beyond our intelligence. What, like you were saying, he's beyond Brahma's intelligence. So what to speak of ours? And so, yes, we study Shastra, we even memorize verses and all of that, but we do it with the right mood of bhakti, because my mind is like a 60s jukebox. There was a song, to know him is to love him, right? So when we actually, we that knowledge should lead to that devotion. And Krishna can only be understood by bhakti. Everything else, forget about it. It's not there. And so we can even become proud of our erudition. But really approaching him with bhakti is, even like in that verse, Patram pushpam phalam tvayam, if one offers me with a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water. The word bhakti is mentioned twice there in that one verse. And so Krishna's making it really clear. He doesn't need the leaf, he doesn't need the flower, he doesn't need the vegan turkey yesterday or whatever. But what he wants, what he tastes, is the devotion, and that's the way to know him. Thank you for that. Who was that who was speaking?
That was Jamuna Jaya.
Oh, Jai Jamuna Jaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
I can't see on the phone who's, I only see myself, unfortunately.
Henry Prabhu.
You said Maya nudges us or sometimes slaps us in the face, and I thought, is Maya actually help us become Krishna conscious?
Yeah, in that sense, right? Maya, another meaning of Maya is mercy, right? And yes, because if it was really easy, then something that you acquire that comes easy, sometimes we take for granted. So we said, oh, well, I got pure devotion. Now I'm going to, take up, downhill skiing, take up another hobby. But when you really, really struggle, and sometimes it's over many lifetimes, then, it's, you treasure it. You treasure the bhakti when you have to really, really work at it to achieve it, because it's, it doesn't come easy on one level, and we see that it's only by really taking sincere shelter of Krishna, and it's nice to actually meditate on where do we find shelter. Okay, is it in our Guru Maharaj? Is it Srila Prabhupada? Is it Haridas Thakur? Is it Lord Nityananda? Is it Lord Chaitanya? Is it Radha Murlidhar? Is it Radha Govinda? Is it, Panchatattva deities? We all kind of have certain and obviously it varies sometimes in our life, but there's a person, a personality, or a manifestation of Krishna that we really feel sheltered by. And when we have that inspiration, we should take it and really pray to that deity, or those deities, or to that great teacher of Krishna consciousness, because there's some inspiration there in our heart that we find. Like for myself, when I'm trying to chant nicely, I try to take shelter of Haridas Thakur and think about, read about his pastimes and learn more about him and think of him and pray to him that I could somehow chant Hare Krishna appropriately. So if that, so Henry, to take your question, so to take that kind of inspiration from being beaten up by Maya and therefore seek shelter. Another thing that Maya helps us with is humility, right? Because humility is such a necessary item for actually taking shelter. We're talking about taking shelter. How do you really need to be in the right mindset to take shelter. And Maya, when we think, well, I applied my intelligence, I still got whooped by Maya, and then we see I can't defeat the illusory energy on my own, and let me take shelter. So Maya is helpful like that. Yeah.
Ananda Manjari.
Hare Krishna. First, I want to voice Andrea's point. So she brought up in the chat, Rukmini Walker Prabhu says, gratitude makes space for Krishna's grace. And then her comment was, so we can be grateful for circumstances to see Krishna's mercy. And then she asks, would love to hear of your experience with that.
Well, it's easy to say in a class, and it's harder to do in real life. I find that every day. I can give a class, I can post some verses, but then the real test is when, I turn off the class is over, and then I actually have to live my life. And to remain grateful in troubled times is I think I see it kind of as like if you're trying to, develop your muscles, right? First you start with 2-pound weights, and then you graduate to 5-pound weights and 10-pound, and, et cetera, et cetera. And you work your way up, you're developing that muscle. And so that I think gratitude is a little like that. Or another way of looking at it is, between the stimulus and the response, something happens to us in our life. And instead of kind of the knee-jerk reaction of being angry, trying to immediately adjust the material circumstance, feeling bad for ourselves, being in denial, being ashamed, etc. That when that stimulus comes, then to take shelter, maybe take shelter in gratitude, and to see that, as Prabhupada would say, that, things much worse should have happened, but Krishna minimized this. That it's a sadhana, right? Sadhana means practice. That takes some practice to become good at that. So in my life, I often tell this story. It's a little embarrassing, but I guess I can tell it. So I was a brahmachari for over 10 years. And then a friend of mine was kind of, and I decided that it was probably appropriate for me to get married. And a friend of mine had kind of arranged for me to meet a devotee, a woman devotee. And I was, it's kind of funny when you become, I hope I'm not taking up too much of your time. I kind of joined when I was like 18 years old. And so, like I'm like almost 30 when this happened. And it's kind of like, when you leave the material, I just kind of felt like I was back in high school, because there was that gap where I was, chanting Hare Krishna. I wasn't thinking about these kind of things. Anyway, so we spoke a few times, and then she said, "No, I'm not interested." And I was, kind of like, someone broke up with me in high school kind of thing. And I was really feeling sorry for myself, and really, why, Krishna, why are you doing this to me? And, I'm not, all kinds of like really dumb emotions were and how is this Krishna's mercy? All those kind of things that happened to us, right? We said, well, didn't seem like Krishna's mercy. And now in 2020 hindsight, of course, because I met Ananda Vrindavaneshwari, and she's such a wonderful person and a great devotee, and has really helped me so much in my Krishna consciousness. I can look back and I say, oh, that was Krishna's mercy. But at the time, I did not pass the test. I just felt sorry for myself and was not in great consciousness. And I think everyone on this call has that experience of sometimes looking 2020 hindsight and eventually saying, oh, that was Krishna's mercy. But to try to shorten that time between when something happens and immediately seeing that somehow Krishna is teaching me something here. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I know there's some jewel for me to mine here. So I think that closing that gap between something that happens to us and a Krishna conscious response is one way to look at that. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it's helpful. Here's the answer. I like the idea of gratitude being a sadhana practice. Also, thank you for sharing your personal story. It's always easiest for me with those personal connections. So it seems it helped.
That one's embarrassing, but all's well that ends well.
I appreciate that story. I want to ask a question now if we have a few minutes. This is Ananda Manjari, Devi Dasi. So you mentioned the possibility of taking shelter when we realize how much potency Maya has. And I was thinking recently how really truly bound we are through the modes of material nature and how they really affect us. I mean, I can see it, all over me. And so then there's that place of like, yes, there's taking shelter, but then before we even choose to take shelter, there are so many opportunities to turn around and even think like, what is the point if we are failing all the time? Mm. And so I would like to hear more of that. Like, how do we even practice that or practice finding hope when we are just failing continuously?
I'm working on that myself. I think it's that same verse, chapter 4, verse 10 of the Gita, that many, many persons in the past have traversed this. That's paraphrasing. It's that verse that says, "From knowledge comes love." And if somebody wants to find the exact wording, I forget the Sanskrit. Anyway, what's that? You have it there? Someone have it? 4:10? What is the English? Nobody? Somebody? Anyway, the idea that many, many persons in the past have achieved perfection through this. So for me, what becomes inspiring is associating with devotees who have had at least some success and maybe tons of success in traversing the material energy. And we're fortunate in our Sangha of Vaishnavas that there are many devotees in that category. And it's said that, one should associate with devotees, one should associate with equals and those more advanced than them. And so that's been an inspiration for me, is seeing somebody who may have, come from a similar background as me, maybe, and they've been like a rocket ship back to Krishna's lotus feet. And so seeing that gives me hope that, okay, it can be done. It's possible. Also, sometimes remembering times when I did do the right thing. I did take shelter. I was kind of acting Krishna consciously. So it reminds me, yes, Vraj, it's possible. It can be done. So it is. I think you're bringing up a good point that if we have to have some confidence. I think that's the end of the class, right? That's the conch shell.
Yeah, we're going to greet the Lord. Thank you, Vraj Vihari Prabhu.
All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Okay, stand up, dear devotees. Turn your camera on if you can so that Radha Muladhar can see you. Jeffrey Eckler, yes. Stand up. It's okay. It's okay. Where is Adi? Adi Purusha Prabhu. Yeah. Donation box, please. Donation box. Arjuna Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada, Radha Muladhar. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Darshan Prabhu.
Jai ho. Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Adi Purusha Prabhu.
Right.
Amrit Krishna. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, dear devotees. It's takeaways time. If you'd like to share, that's something that spoke to you. Now is the time. Henry Prabhu, by the way, Vraj Vihari Prabhu didn't show up because of you. You bewildered him. You told him the class was tomorrow. So it's Henry Prabhu's fault. He bewildered Vraj Vihari Prabhu. Okay.
You know, there's a really wonderful story about Lord Brahma and how intelligent he was and how powerful Maya is and how even a great intelligent person can be covered over. But then, of course, the moral of the story is how wonderful is Krishna, that he helped Lord Brahma to see what he couldn't see. And he revealed himself to Lord Brahma. And we're in the same trajectory where there are stages of bewilderment when we're not seeing Krishna. And Krishna is so wonderful that he's reaching out to each of us in a personal way, in a loving way, to help us to open our eyes and get back to the understanding of what's important and what's. She was asking that question. Well, how, when you're losing hope, if you're failing again and again, how do you keep, not lose hope? And then, of course, Scripture says, faith comes by hearing. Faith comes by hearing. When we lose our faith, when we lose our understanding that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, we hear from Scripture, from the devotees, like he said, the association devotees, we hear that Krishna is there. And Krishna will help us. It is helping.
Yeah, we see by hearing.
Yeah, we see what we can't see by hearing from Scripture. That's what Scripture, and we hear by hearing the word of God, by hearing how wonderful Krishna is. He's not neglecting anyone. He never leaves you alone. Somebody was telling me recently, I'm all alone. No, I'm all alone. I said, you're alone with Krishna. Krishna's making an arrangement that you're alone with Krishna. He's holding you close. Don't forget that he's there. So Lord Brahma went through it, and all of us are going through it, and so many great souls, like Prabhu was saying in the past. And we want to thank him for the marvelous class. Just delightful to hear from such a nice devotee. Okay, well, glory to Prabhupada.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Wonderful contribution.
By the
Rich
grace of
Bhakti.
Prabhu. Rich.
Hare Krishna. All right, faith is hearing. Faith is hearing. I'm going to tie that into the thought I had. So Vraj Vihari said, there's no Vraj Vihari in Srimad Bhagavatam, but I was thinking how Adi Purusha is so fond of saying these books, like Krishna's pastimes, the pastimes of his devotees, they don't end with the 12th canto or the 18th chapter. They're ongoing.
Right.
And
Yes.
I was just picturing Vraj Vihari in his car parked on the battlefield of Kurukshetra with Krishna sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, the song of God, the Gita, is still being sung. And let us hear that. Let that hearing be our faith, as you said, Adi Purusha. So anyway, that's my 2 cents today. Great to see you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Bhima Prabhu is here. BD, Bhima Das Prabhu. Yeah. Brief darshan of Bhima Prabhu. Bhima Prabhu is very shy. Shyness is a virtue. He's very virtuous.
Hare Krishna. You could stop talking now. Go on. Somebody else speak. They say a fool is discerned when he opens his mouth, so I've already said too much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Okay, who else wants to say something? Okay. All right. So Adipusha Prabhu, there's Krishna right behind you.
Krishna.
Oh, William.
I have a question. His name is on the screen. It said Brian.
Vraj Vihari Prabhu.
So yeah, his initiated name is.
Vraj Vihari Das.
Can you write that in the chat?
Yeah, I can do that.
Sweet. Thank you, brother. What a wonderful class. What a wonderful class.
Okay. Adipusha Prabhu, show us Krishna instructing Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, right behind you. And this will be the end note of our class. Yes. Arjuna, you're not alone. Go fight. Right? All right. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. We will all make it there, right? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We'll see you there.
See you on the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, nice. Hare Krishna.